Today we're going to rant about the problem with black women on TikTok because black women have completely lost the plot.
My favorite thing to be is skinny. And I fear you cannot say that out loud, but it is my favorite thing to be, and it is my favorite fear to not be.
My beautiful black women, why we keep doing this to ourselves? Why do we carry before we marry? I understand this is y'all choice, y'all millionaires, but it's the principle. You're not supposed to let no man, especially you, Sky. I'm very disappointed in you. You could have had Kai. It could have been Sky. Kai.
If you aren't aware, black women have taken a nosedive into being the one thing that we absolutely hate, which is the aunties and mamas that ridiculed us and made us feel like we were not enough or that we were too much growing up. On TikTok, they are taking a step back, obsessively loving the fact that they are skinny. Like, oh my God, I'm so skinny. I can fit through a door slot skinny. They're also bashing young black mothers that are grown and choosing to be mothers and have families. Let's talk about it. While I've always saw social media as a space of progression, I've always saw black women as progressive. I had to acknowledge that as a black woman, we are not supposed to take on things just because we can. And I think it's a fair assumption that we make mistakes too, and acknowledge that we have a pattern of toxicity that is generational. Now, I don't believe in making content that punches down at black women because at the end of the day, like I said, we make mistakes too and learn how we can grow and be better from the mistakes that we are making. Let's start with the election. Now, personally, I was not disappointed by the outcome because I knew that the odds were stacked against girl boss gatekeep Madam VP Kamala Harris. As much as I wanted her to win like everyone else, I do believe that because she's an overqualified, highly educated black woman, that was enough for her to not win. No notes there. So you're probably wondering, Sabrina, how does this tie into black women on TikTok? I'm glad you asked.
The election is over, guys. We need to stop being so petty. Like, we as a community need to just come together and stop being so petty. Like, you win some and you lose some. So I wanted to weigh in on people wanting to correct black women right now when it comes to this whole trend of black women going back to Starbucks, going back to McDonald's. Then you have people on here that are upset at them for doing so. The people that are upset with black women for doing so, you are very much tone deaf, and I can tell that you really truly don't understand the black woman's plight.
Baby, is this who we are? Ever since the election has happened, black women have started this movement unintentionally that we're going to take a step back. And I'm not going to sit and pretend like I wasn't one of those people that was like, you know what? Your girl is going to take a step back. But I thought take a step back as in we stop championing other people's pain until they decide to start taking on our pain in the same way. And even if that never happens, we know that we're going to be okay because we have black unity among black women, black queer people, and we're going to be okay because we have been okay. But that doesn't mean burning bridges with communities and people who have done nothing wrong by stating you're going back to Starbucks and McDonald's and other problematic places simply because Trump won and Kamala lost. Is that not insane to you? I hope everyone knows that boycotts extend far beyond Palestine. What's been going on with Palestine has been going on for years. And them asking us to boycott is because these specific places have contributed in some way to the unfortunate, inhumane situations that they are dealing with. I mean, I hate that I have to say this, but there are black Palestinians. There are black queer Palestinians that matter. And we shouldn't solely care because they're black. However, it should help to know that one of our people, they may not be where we're from, one of ours is also going through an inhumane situation. Not to mention the number of controversies that Starbucks has had with Black people. Their track record is not squeaky clean, as well as the other places that are currently being boycotted as well. You can't only think about yourself in this situation, because these situations affect us even if it's not here in plain sight as it is in Palestine. What's happening in places like Congo and Palestine and other marginalized spaces will eventually happen to us too, regardless to how you think about it. We are not untouchable. And as Black women, the most disrespected group in America, word to Malcolm, it's so sad and so troubling to see so many of us become the oppressors that we hate. And I get it. I have watched plenty of analysis videos from different Black women getting their perspective on why they're choosing to take this step back. And I agree. I don't feel like you should champion on something that is not benefiting you. However, this is a humanity crisis. This is something that affects all of us. You choosing to eat at these places, it makes me feel like you didn't really care about it to begin with. It shouldn't take for Kamala to lose for you to up and decide, hey, yeah, I'm gonna go back to get my Starbucks. Can't wait until they turn Palestine into a parking lot. That is something Black people were literally saying. Black women specifically were saying. I truthfully believe that a lot of Black women that are coming forth and saying these things, they understood that just a couple months ago, you would be publicly shamed, also humiliated for supporting these things, and rightfully so. But now that people believe it's over because it's out of sight, out of mind, you have a lot of folks who just use the election as an excuse to go back to indulging in bad behavior. While skin color and race matter in every single aspect of life, at the end of the day, it's us against the rich. And we're probably one recession removed from the fact that that could be us. You had women like Ida B. Wells, who was an extremely popular and influential, impactful Black journalist that was on those front lines of the women's suffrage movement. Not to mention, my sister was a Pulitzer Prize winner. Let's keep that in mind. Women like Susan B. Anthony and Elizabeth Cady Stanton, who started the women's suffrage movement, did not want Black women a part of that movement to gaining rights to vote. But yet, you had a whole bunch of women during the election putting "I voted" stickers on Susan B. Anthony. Mind you, she's probably tossing in her grave, burning like the rotisserie chicken that she is, because she did not like Black women. And she darn sure probably wouldn't have liked, I know she wouldn't have liked Kamala being the first Black woman president. They weren't inviting us to meetings, they weren't strategizing with us, and they certainly weren't crediting us for the things that we contributed to the movement. But we still pulled through as Black women to lead and assert ourselves in the conversation to make sure we got what we deserve. In fact, it inspired one of the greatest pieces of all time, Sojourner Truth's Ain't I a Woman. Sojourner Truth was literally miles ahead of her time. And that was one of the first impactful pieces that I read in high school that I felt like I could connect with her even if I wasn't there. But what we don't know will come back to bite us. If you do not know your history, history is doomed to repeat itself. Learn from our leaders, from our ancestors who literally put themselves on the line despite the amount of pushback and disappointment that they faced. Those white women let us down before, and they let us down now, but that doesn't mean you get to forget your humility. Let's not forget how the election has impacted Black women and the effects of that. I want to give a shout out to Imani Crutches and Spice on TikTok. She made a great short video where she just references people to read the 1918 pandemic flu that took place and how the rise of fascism happened quickly after.
I really have nothing to say other than you may want to look up the history of the rise of fascism post the 1918 flu pandemic. Mass illnesses always lead to a rise in fascism, in eugenics, and despite what people want to say, it's in everything.
Now, there's a belief that's been proven twice over that pandemics sparked the rise in fascism, as we've seen time and time again. But a cluster of people always come out and they say things along the lines of, well, the weak will die. And it's okay that they died, because that just means they were weak and the strong will survive and prevail. It's an interesting conversation to have because it's happening right now. We have Black women on TikTok spewing the same rhetoric that we hated in the early 2000s. Now, there's a creator, I'm sure you've heard her name. Her name is Slim Kim. I've never personally watched her videos. In fact, when I was on TikTok, I kept seeing Slim Kim, Slim Kim, Slim Kim. And I'm like, well, who is that? And at first I thought maybe Kim Kardashian came out with a line and people were bashing her for it, rightfully so. It unfortunately ended up being a Black woman who said with her whole chest that she loves being skinny.
My favorite thing to be is skinny. And I fear you cannot say that out loud, but it is my favorite thing to be, and it is my favorite fear to not be. And this is just for me personally. This is all personal to me. But I just wanted to say it out loud because honestly, it's all I think about. It's all I think about.
And she even went as far as to say in her comments that she views skinniness as social currency. And here's where it starts to get muddy, because we've seen this language before. Now, I grew up a 2000s baby, so I could say firsthand what the early 2000s was like as far as weight and how that contributed to a lot of women going down really dark paths. And it's starting to make me feel nostalgic in a way, because now you see comments that are just like, oh, my back is wide, big back, and a bunch of other comments that are jarring, because these comments are being weaponized against bigger people, plus size people. And you also have people who are not big themselves that are saying these things about themselves as a ha-ha at the expense of fat people.
It's not fair that you have to be skinny and attractive and this and that in order to get opportunities, but that's just how it is.
Don't get fat. Whatever you're doing in life, do not get fat. It ain't worth it. Don't do it. Don't stretch that back out. Don't stretch that tummy out. It's not worth it in the long run.
Now, I have been skinny. I have been bigger. I would say I'm more in the middle now. And my journey was not always easy. Despite being super confident in myself, despite loving myself, I realized I didn't love myself at every stage. I literally would associate trauma with being bigger. And I would only say that because when I was at my biggest, I experienced so many harsh things from just people that I thought were close to me in my life, or even just strangers. So anytime that I would, gain weight, I would gain a certain amount of weight. And now I feel like I'm being placed back into that space of feeling humiliation. When I was in college, I had disordered eating. And I didn't know I was eating in a disordered way until I realized that I kept throwing up. I would go to my local cafe on my campus, I'd eat, and then I would have lemon water, not realizing the lemon water is going to not only cut the fat in my stomach, but it's also going to make me vomit all of the food that I just ate. So I would go back to my dorm like, man, my stomach really hurts. I call my mom, I call my sister, and they're just like, oh, maybe it's the campus food making you sick. And that's a possibility, but I didn't realize until it was too late, and I would throw up so much that it eventually sent me to the hospital. And that was probably the skinniest that I ever was. So when it happened to me and I threw up and I got sent to the hospital, I'm just like, oh, something's not right here. And I'm not going to sit and lie and say that when I was skinnier, I had a slimmer face. And I noticed a change in people's behavior and how they perceived me. It went from people feeling like, oh, I look aggressive or I'm intimidating. And now, I'm just like, that's your projection. Like, you being intimidated has nothing to do with me. But that was comments that I frequently got, being dark skinned and a big girl. Now people are projecting on me. So being dark skinned and now I'm slimmer, it's like, they kind of canceled each other out, because now I'm stepping into a more desirable light where people are just like, oh, okay, girl, you can have anything that you want. Here, take my money. I'm begging you. But let's not play, because my body always been tea. And so has my face. My face always been a 10 out of 10. But it's not hard for me to understand why I see Black women who used to be big who are saying, I feel so much happier being skinny. Having a slimmer face afforded me opportunities that I never thought I could have. It levels me up in my career. It opened me up to more people and friends. And it's really just a long list of things that it actually came with. Now, there's an ongoing debacle think piece after think piece after think piece about what Slim Kim said. And I've seen both sides. You have former bigger black women that are just like, I love being skinny. I love all the things that come with it. And then you have the other side where bigger black women are just like, well, if you truly loved being skinny, then you wouldn't need to tell us. Is it fat phobic? I believe it's fat phobic. But I also believe that it's an explanation for why the fat phobia exists in the first place. A lot of black women, a lot of bigger black women are often called the most atrocious things. Now, I can't say that that was my experience, but I can say that I have experienced being the bigger girl, in gym, being the last person to be picked, and just little tedious things like that. But there are bigger black women, and I don't think people really understand how being called precious was such an insult. It has so many layers, considering it literally is what the movie is talking about. Precious being a dark-skinned bigger girl, she often got overlooked because she was bigger and dark-skinned. So her being those two things, it was easy to overlook the sexual abuse that she was facing, the abuse that she was facing from her mother, to not being able to just walk the streets and feel confident about herself because you constantly had people putting her down. It felt like a lot of us could see ourselves in her because the world is not kind to dark-skinned people, let alone bigger dark-skinned people. So I don't blame any black woman for wanting to have an easier, peaceful life. And that's word to Kimberly Crenshaw for coining the word intersectionality. Kimberly Crenshaw coined that word in 1989, and if you're not familiar with it, it's basically an oppression lab. It's when you carry multiple identities and they all come with separate oppressive experiences that now create one big special experience. And don't take special for what the word actually is. It just means unique in this particular situation. For instance, someone white and queer will not experience the same oppression as someone black and queer. Why? Let's break it down. To be white, that's not really oppressive. You can be an oppressor, but that's not oppressive. You can be queer and that has oppression, so now that adds oppression to your identity. But if you are black and queer, black comes with its own oppression circle, as well as queer comes with its own oppression circle. So now being black and queer, the odds are stacked against you simply because of your identity. So while it's nothing wrong with choosing peace and wanting to be happy, I think it's also harmful for black women to reduce themselves to their bodies. And overall, it's fat phobic because a lot of former black women become the bullies that they used to hate. We see it happen time and time again with creator Samira, who's on TikTok. She's a plus size influencer who goes to different stores that don't usually or don't carry plus size clothes, and she basically calls them out for the lack of inclusion of bigger bodies. And I can tell you firsthand, watching Samira's videos is a godsend because I've been wanting someone to do it, if not myself, to expose these brands that make these cute clothes but act like they can't make it for us either. I'm not gonna lie to you guys, referring back to my college story, when I gained all of my weight back because I was on some meds because drinking lemon water every single day, I didn't know that was a bad thing. Again, being a young college student, I wasn't aware. So I developed acid reflux and I had to take PPIs. If you're not familiar with that, it just basically means antacids. And in the process of me being on those, I had to eat a lot. So I gained weight. So imagine going a couple months of people being like, wow, girl, you look good. And, wow, you look like you're glowing, to now gaining all this weight back that, again, came from trauma. And I had a breakdown. I'm not gonna lie. I had multiple mental breakdowns and I had to sit with myself and I had to literally just go through everything that I've gone through and decide to heal. Because I'm just like, there's no way you can move through life not loving every stage of yourself. You can be disappointed that things have happened to you, but you have to do something about that if it makes you feel disappointed. If you're not really comfortable with your body, do something about it. But don't hate yourself into losing that weight because you're just going to still hate yourself. You're still not going to like yourself. And life changes so often that all it takes is a quick blink of an eye for everything to change, and now you're back at that weight that you hated, and you're going to hate yourself even more and be so rude and cruel to yourself. And I need you to understand why that is detrimental. I cannot stress this enough that I was not for sure that I was going to live that year because of how stressed out that made me. But now I'm in a comfortable space because I don't like being skinny. Skinny didn't make me feel as beautiful as being a big girl has. I love knowing that I can be myself, and I can be myself because this is the life that I chose. I'm not choosing to be skinny for other people. I'm choosing to be a big girl because that is where I'm at my happiest. And I personally feel like if fatness is the biggest worry of your life, then you're not living enough. And that's not the worst of it. Come walk with me, baby. Come on. We got to talk about baby mama culture. Now, I'm 24 and I cannot fathom. And I mean, I can't let alone think about being somebody or something mama. Okay? So when I see people my age have babies, not in a judgmental way, I'm just like, oh, girl, did you give life a chance? And I'm not saying that in a judgmental way, I promise. I'm saying it I have had friends and I have had family members and elders who have said, you know, I really wish I would have waited to start a family so I could really understand and get to know myself and have the patience for my kids that they deserve. And I'm not gonna lie, I have engaged with a couple of those analysis posts because I feel like they're always helpful. I love to get multiple perspectives on things. But this is one perspective that I feel like I hit a wall with because we're talking about women, specifically Black young celebrities, and we're inserting them in conversations where they don't belong. For instance, Callie. If you're unfamiliar with Callie, she's a really pretty rapper. She makes some cute bops, and she recently came out to be pregnant. And she also popped out with her man. But a lot of people weren't too happy about that, and they pretty much gave her a lot of crap for it. Obviously, she didn't care. She turned them comments off and said, I'm going to show this belly and I'm going to be cute and you going to mind your business. And then we also have Miss Halle Bailey, the Little Mermaid herself, world-renowned child prodigy, such a beautiful face, such a beautiful lady in spirit. She had a baby, as you know, baby Halo, and a lot of people were angry at her. Now, I feel like Halle's situation's a little bit more nuanced because people saw from a mile away that her relationship with her child's father was going to be a certain way. If you don't know, Halle is with DDG. He is a YouTuber. I have personally never watched his videos, but I have heard of him through the grapevine. And a lot of people typically say that he's a cool dude, kind of built up his money on his own. All great and well, but I think a lot of people fail to realize that while he can possibly be a good person, he may not be a good person for her. Now, I want to preface this by saying, I don't know them folks, but I can only go according to what I see. And I was there in real time when he was sabotaging her Little Mermaid rollout. First, starting with the fact that he never watched the movie, and it was just like, okay, you know, whatever. I don't know why you need to share that with us, but cool. To making a burner account where he pretty much talks bad about her co-star because he was jealous that she kissed him in the movie. Despite the fact that he has plenty of videos where there's video girls literally twerking on him and dancing around him. So I'm a little confused how the two are not the same considering they're both work. But digress. Overall, people were really upset that that was her choice and partner. And I can understand that, especially because he was sabotaging her in real life.
DDG, I'm trying to keep my composure. I'm trying to believe in you, okay? I thought you was going to create your little Black family with a queen and you was going to do right. And I'm still holding out hope. You know what I'm saying? I'm going to give you a couple weeks before I really cut into you.
However, that is that girl's life. And clearly that is someone she chose and wants to be with. And if you want to be truthful about it, Ruby Rose did warn her about this in advance. But that's all I have to say for Miss Halle. Again, love her down. Then it comes out the queen herself, Miss Flo Milli. She comes out that she's pregnant. A lot of people are angry with her, and it's an anger to a different degree that's just like, are you guys okay? Flo really is an unproblematic, amazing, talented rapper. She doesn't hurt nobody. She pretty, she tall, she thick, okay? So I'm not really sure what the beef was there. A lot of people expressed their disappointment. But she grown. If she want to start a family, that is her choice. And now we have Sky Jackson. If you know, you know, okay? Sky Jackson has been a problematic person for as long as I can remember, especially as long as I have been on the internet. So a lot of what has happened to her, I could say is warranted, but we're not here to discuss that. If you aren't aware, Sky is pregnant and she has a very toxic, abusive baby daddy who has openly said he gets down with the domestic violence. So prayers to homegirl. I hope she's safe. But a lot of people were upset with her about her choice in partner as well, and I can understand that.
You really want to be ghetto? Believe me, you can have the piss in the hallway. I'll take the Picasso. You got a Picasso in your house.
Again, like Halle, people warned her in advance about messing with this particular guy. But, you know, Nate...
So this is how I became friends with Sky Jackson and how we fell out. And then I guess we cool now again.
Clips literally said that this is her type of guy. So if this is the guys that she chooses, then there's nothing that we can do about that. And we shouldn't judge her for it because that is her life. She makes her own decisions. And given all that knowledge about each individual woman that has come out so far about being pregnant, I understand why they're making these think pieces on TikTok, because it is frustrating to see such talented, beautiful young girls being mothers so early on and not really figuring out life for themselves. But again, we can reduce this down to a matter of, do we know these people? No. And I've seen a lot of people try to justify the fact that because we don't know them and they put their lives online, we have a right to be able to say and do as we please, which is not true.
Call me a hater, but I will never like Halle Bailey ever again. I feel like y'all forgot that she really tried to gaslight us into believing that she was not pregnant. Whole time she was just lying to the internet. Her and that goofy.
Halle being very private about her pregnancy, she's entitled to that. But people hate her for not inviting them into that very private lifestyle that she likes to lead. And that in itself is very weird. So I think that it's safe to say, if you're that invested in these young women's lives, compare it to yourself. Sit with yourself and compare it to yourself. Are you in a financial space to have a child? No. Are you as successful as them? No. Are you in a space where if you decide to be a mom, you can just return back to your life? No. So I think with that said, these are different tax brackets, meaning these are different experiences that not many of us would be able to afford to lead. And it's starting to feel misogynistic because you have women like Mana Leo, who just had a baby. That's my girl, my fellow Taurus sister, beautiful, rap queen, period. She had a baby, a cute baby, and she's thriving. She was working while she was pregnant. She's still working after being pregnant. And if anything, her momentum literally skyrocketed because now she has her baby, she has her family, she's engaged, and she's really just living her life. She has everything that she wants, and now she's able to afford that opportunity to be able to take her family with her to follow her dreams. It is crazy to me that a lot of Black women think that Black women not being in the industry for a certain amount of time ruins their careers. Like, this is not Beyonce and Rihanna we're talking about, because I've seen people put them in conversation about this, and I truly believe you cannot insert them in this situation because that's a different generation. Those are different set of rules. Like, anyone could be in the industry now. You could do anything that you want. Back then, there was a set standard. You were the face. You were the body. You cannot do certain things because obviously it would be snatched away from you. Opportunities were really scarce. You had to fight for the things that you wanted. But like now, you don't have to do that. You could just get a Nike endorsement for simply just posing in their shoe on TV. So we can't compare different successes because those women had something to prove. Women now, we just do what we want to do. And that's how it should have always been, in my opinion. But you know what? Y'all love success like theirs until it's time to talk about them being unethical billionaires. And I love both of them. But at the end of the day, we understand that being a billionaire is not ethical, but y'all not ready to have that conversation yet. But y'all need to be real. And as I said, all of these women are rich. If they want to have babies, they can afford to have these babies. Will jump right back into their career like nothing happened. Cardi B is a huge example of that. She's had 3 kids and sister's back at it. She may not be making albums, but she's still doing features. She's still doing fashion shows. She's still doing magazine covers. So I don't feel like anyone's career has truly been damaged by choosing to be a mom. If anything, it makes them work harder because they're like, all right, I got kids. I got mouths to feed. I want to leave a legacy behind. So I'm going to be a mom, I'm going to be good at it, and I'm also going to be good at my craft. I truly don't believe that the think pieces that I saw on TikTok are warranted. I don't feel like they're justified in bullying young Black women, especially young Black pregnant women, because we understand that pregnancy is probably the most detrimental part of having a baby, and we understand that a lot of Black women die at larger rates than other races when it comes to delivering a baby. So by causing stress and bullying them in their comments and saying these things about them as if they won't see them is pretty tone deaf. Black women, especially in entertainment, have been having babies for years and they have been fine, and they will continue to be fine. I have even seen Black women on TikTok go as far as to say, I used to look up to her. And I'm just like, why can't you still look up to her? Why is it now she's choosing to be a mother and start her family? Something that has nothing to do with you, something that doesn't affect your family or any of what you do in your life. Why does she lose value now that she's a mother? That's the misogyny I'm talking about. And I'm just starting to feel like if she truly was someone who meant something to you, then her having a baby shouldn't change that. So maybe you didn't really look up to her to begin with. And maybe you're just projecting because she's leading a life that you can no longer relate to. And that's okay. I really wish a lot of you guys were honest and sat with yourselves and actually thought about why you hate young Black pregnant women. Like, and it's time to reel it in and really sit with that thought. Thank you, gorgeous, for sitting and watching my video. I had a lot to get off my chest, and trust me, I have so much more that I can get off my chest, but I did not want this video to be 2 hours long because I could. I have a lot that we need to sit and talk about and do better at. Let's have conversations about this. Let's actually work out what we could do. And I know you want to subscribe to me because I rant, I play games, and I do what I want. But for now, your girl's gotta go. I love you. Bye.